With Car Guru's Discover, you can skip the filters and describe what you're looking for in your own words. Simply type what you want, and Car Guru's Discover instantly surfaces real listings that match your exact needs. It's no wonder Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site according to SimilarWeb's estimated traffic data. Buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com. cargurus.com.
This is your Chargers linebacker, Daiyan, Henley, and you're tuning in with Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. If this is your first time tuning in the show, make sure to hit that like, subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Dan Wolkenstein, good morning. Happy Sunday.
What day is it?
Go USA Hockey. Honestly, I have lost track of what day it is for the past 3 weeks. I have zero idea of what day it is.
Welcome to the club, sir.
I literally just have to pull up the phone and literally look at the calendar. When beforehand, I could tell you exactly what time it was, what day it was, what time it is in New York, what time it is in Europe. I can't do that anymore. Every concept of time and management has now been completely out the window for me in the last 3 weeks.
And why is that, Jake?
You know why, Dan. So does everybody else.
Not everybody. Jake is a father now, and he gets to enjoy all the fruits that it springs, like no sleep, like spit ups and blowouts and 3 a.m. feeds and all that stuff. I'm kidding. There's the incredibleness of it all, but we can bitch a little bit about it, can't we? Yeah. Jake, welcome back, sir. It's been, 2 weeks since we've done this?
It's been 2 weeks since we've done this.
Weird.
Let's see if we remember how to do this.
I know. How do I use my voice? No. Folks in chat, thanks for bearing with us with these technical difficulties. Jake alluded to it. USA wins gold in hockey, men and women's in the Olympics. Who'd have thunk? Dang. Overtime.
Both overtime games, too.
Yeah.
How can you not be romantic about Olympic hockey?
This is a fun episode, we hope, at least. Chargers free agency. Last episode, we talked about the internal free agents, who the Chargers could/should sign internally. This time, we get to go to some of the juicy content and who the Chargers could and should sign externally. What positions? How much money should they allocate towards them? Who are some no-goes and who are some kind of hot button names to look into? But Jake, before we get to that, I already asked how you doing.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
We haven't done this in a while, but should we try to just make our way through this ad read and see what we can do with our friends over at Sleeper?
Yeah, let's try it because we know that football season is over. Super Bowl's in the rearview mirror. The book has been closed on the 2025 NFL season. But that doesn't mean that things stop for any of our users over at Sleeper because Sleeper now has what they call team picks, which is a new feature for them as it relates to their prediction tool that they can help you win boatloads of cash. So you can choose winners of each game. So if we're pairing the Lakers with the Kings, for example. That's how you can win. You can stack rank so many teams together to make your own type of parlay for your opportunity to win big time money. Again, as we always have been using, you make sure to use the promo code Chargers LAFB over at Sleeper. Make sure you tell Sleeper that the Chargers Unleashed podcast sent you over there, and you can win up to 1,000 times your cash with initial, of course, deposit. But make sure you go over to Sleeper, sign up with that promo code, because the offseason does not stop when the NFL is not going. So make sure you go over to Sleeper.
Well done, sir. Well done.
No, that was about as shitty as it gets with the limited information that I had. Thanks a lot. And that's what happens when you're not on the show for 2 weeks.
We're getting through the rookie moves again, Jake. We're not off season.
Literally knocking the Rust-Oleum off my shoulder right now, because that's how it sounds. I promise you, as we get more into this show, things are going to flow a lot better. Dan talked about it. And bulk of this is going to be the external free agents that we're going to talk about, as the last show was mainly centralized to the Chargers' internal free agents, as far as who to keep, who to cut, possible additions. And of course, with what we have going on now, Combine coming up, and then, of course, paired with the draft. But the NFL free agency is really going to be kind of the spark to everything as it relates to the offseason, and especially for Joe Ortiz, for how much money he's had allocated over the last couple of years, how much money he's had to spend, what he's ended up doing with that money over the last couple of years. That, criticism, fair or foul, however you want to look at it for certain things. I think as it relates to one certain position, I don't believe he's going to be making the same mistake that he made 1 year ago as it relates to not allocating certain things or not drafting certain players at that position. But now Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh have the most cap space that they've had to work with over the last 3 years. And there is a lot as far as potential targets that they could look at to bring in. So Dan and I are going to go over this the best we can. If there's any player that you think, whenever we're going through these positions, that you like to chime in on, because obviously there is a plethora as it relates to certain positions. We decided to take, you could basically take whatever position you want as far as who you favor. But Dan and I kind of went through the biggest positions as far as the free agent targets that we feel like the Chargers are going to be heavy in going into, not necessarily the players themselves, but positions. It kind of be similar for the draft as well. But Dan, as you like to tell me, the 5,000-foot overview of all of that. We've heard Joe Ortiz speak at the podium, and one of his most notable quotes that he had during his final press conference after the season was over was to say, "I'm down to spend, but I'm not down to spend recklessly." However you want to pair that, because I understand the mentality, and I think the first year for Joe Ortiz, that mentality worked out great. You saw the number of free agents that he was able to bring in on one-year deals that ended up really blossoming for them. And of course, that has a lot to do with coaching and the environment and their just overall development. Last year, however,
11 wins, guys. Since Forgotten Locale.
11 wins, Pop. I don't believe that Joe Ortiz is going to make the same mistake twice in not allocating and not putting a premium on the offensive line position. When you see what happened to Justin Herbert last year, it was bad enough when it was 2 years ago in the Houston game. There was enough evidence of what happened there. But then to run it back with 4/5 of the same offensive line and to see what took place last year, there's no way in hell that I can see Joe Ortiz not bringing in at least 2 offensive linemen, whether it's through free agency and the draft, if you want to call it 3. I don't believe that he's going to replace all 3 of his interior offensive line. That would just be a hell of a lot of turnover. I know Chicago did it a year ago, but I don't believe that that's going to be the same mentality for Joe Ortiz. But I do believe that there is going to be a much bigger premium on the offensive line position as it relates to free agency and the draft, and especially with Mike McDaniel coming in and that whole new concept for going from a gap-heavy scheme of what Greg Roman ran to now probably going more heavy in the zone concept for offensive line. So there's going to be a lot of tailoring as it relates to this offensive line as far as money goes, as far as fit goes. But yeah, Dan, we could start there offensive line. Obviously, everybody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's an important, and Jake, I'm going to pause for a sec because you know what I just realized? Fans of the show who have been here for a minute will know. One of my first darlings, Dan's Dudes, is a free agent this year. And I just realized that this is a possibility. And it's not Antonio Gibson. Who is it?
You were big on Antonio Gibson.
Yep, it
in
wasn't
the draft
him.
prospect.
I think it was the year after. He's an offensive playmaker.
Offensive playmaker. That's how you categorize it.
Yep. Calvin Austin, the third.
Oh, you were really big on Cal Austin.
They were not.
You were heavy big on Cal Austin.
I just realized he's a free agent. And tell me he does not match perfectly what this new offensive scheme. Speed, elusiveness, get him emotion. Yes, please. Yes, back to the offensive line. I think right now the biggest discussion point is we all know this Chargers offensive line has been horrendous, like historically horrendous over the last few years, especially this last year. It was like bottom 1, 2, or 3 on all guard, center guard combos in the NFL, not even including just starters. This is including backups, and it's been horrendous. So looking at the context, right? Jake, I don't know if you want to mute for a bit. Looking at context, when we are looking at a Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater pairing, ideally both will be healthy. Everything will be great. How can you end up ensuring that they do not make the same mistake again? And you hear folks saying, oh, well, this is a Jim Harbaugh team. They're going to spend on the offensive line. They're going to spend to make sure that they protect Justin Herbert. As much as I want to agree with that, I want to just blindly follow that. It has also been this Chargers team and Jim Harbaugh's team these last couple of years when the offensive line has been doo-doo. Now, some of that is outside of their control, right? They can't control the ridiculous injuries that happened to both Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. But at the same time, you didn't go out and do much to fix your offensive line from the interior perspective. Now, they got a ton of money right now. Do you go out and spend through the ears on whatever position it is? History says no. If you're Joe Ortiz, do you spend? Yes. No one is saying don't spend. But in my opinion, and I have been on record about this when everybody talks about the Tyler Linderbaum stuff and Connor McGovern, the whole just pay for protection. I just don't see Joe Ortiz resetting the market for a center who isn't a bona fide superstar. Period. Do I think he could do it for someone who is that? Sure. I don't think Linderbaum is that. Is he very good? Yes. Is he borderline great? Maybe. Sure. Do you see Joe Ortiz resetting the market for that? After all the things that he has told us, I just don't see it. Now, what I do see is Joe Ortiz trying to find value, trying to find more at-bats, not go cheap, but go strategically and do it smart to where you're not going crazy and risking it all. JC Jackson, what if it doesn't work? Right? What's your plan B? If you spend $25 million, your plan Bs are pretty shitty. If you spend 10, 15, you got a pretty good case where you can make it happen. So I personally, and I've been on record since the jump, I just don't see Tyler Linderbaum. If it was me, I don't think I would do it. I don't think that's how I would spend my money, given the ROI and given the player. If he was a bona fide superstar, sure. If he is proven, if he has been consistent, I just don't know if he is the top tier reset the market guy. And as much as you want to push for that as a Chargers fan or as someone covering this team or as somebody that is watching Justin Herbert just get absolutely floored, I get it, but I think there's a lot of ways they can do that. And there's a lot both in free agency and in the draft. So where I stand and where I have stood, I'm out on the Linderbaum sweepstakes because you can probably get another center who is a tier below, maybe, for $10 million less per year. What say you?
I don't disagree, and I apologize for any background noise you may have heard. Obviously, my daughter was not very happy with Joe Ortiz's free agency strategy in the past as well. So if you continue to hear that, she's just really speaking her mind on what she thinks of this whole free agency plan. But no, Dan, I actually agree with everything that you said. I think those are some smart points to make. And if you kind of take the MO of what we know from Joe Ortiz over the past 2 years, that tracks. Interesting thing that I read from Chris Rim yesterday when just talking about the free agency strategy overall for the Chargers this year. Because yes, everything that you were saying is what Chris was echoing as far as the responsible spending, overpaying, resetting the market. But he also noted that Joe Ortiz has no problem giving money to someone that he's familiar with, which in the case of the Baltimore Ravens to Los Angeles Chargers pipeline that has now been in existence for the past 2 years, that makes sense. We're now going to possibly be talking about Odafe Oweh getting a huge contract in free agency, which I don't think anybody would disagree with as far as making this defense run with a new defensive coordinator and Chris O'Leary, and how important that is. And I think he's deserving of it. But in the case that you're making, Dan, yes, there are other center options because Dan loves to make this. He likes to regurgitate this sentence in certain position groups. Like, you don't need to have the very best at the position. You just need it to be,
good enough.
Yeah, good enough. And it's because the bar for the center for the Chargers last year was so low that it really is not going to take that much to improve. Now, I get the whole idea of, going out and signing Tyler Linderbaum. And to be perfectly honest, I'm for it if it makes sense. But I brought up previously that he's going to be a highly coveted center on the market. But there's going to be plenty of other teams that are going to be bidding for him.
This is the part that I want us to be clear on. I'm for Tyler Linderbaum if it makes sense. But for how much money he's going to cost, it will not make sense. So sure, if you can get a team-friendly deal, you can get Linderbaum for 3 years, $45 million, sure. But let's just talk realities here. So are you okay with resetting the market for Tyler Linderbaum?
I'm okay with it, but here's the caveat. If you're okay with Tyler Linderbaum resetting the center market, you basically have to accept the fact that you just sacrificed a big piece of your cap for other positions.
And I think you have to also accept that you overspent.
Right. I think I would be accepting of it, Dan, considering the fact that Joe Ortiz has not been the aggressor and going after and getting the top player at that respective position over the past 2 years.
It's a bad strategy, dude.
I understand.
Strategy.
I understand.
Desperate.
I understand. Again, the Chargers are desperate for any interior offensive lineman right now. I think we can say that's not. So
that's the theme. I think that's where Chargers fans have to separate, right? Do the Chargers have to improve their offensive line, especially the interior, 1,000%? No one will tell you otherwise. You're already going to do that by bringing in 2 elite tackles that are force multipliers on both sides. So check box 1, check box 2. Then you got left guard who you think could be Zion. You'll probably have to pay a little top tier for him now, but I think he proved himself. And again, known commodity for Joe Ortiz. So let's say you have elite tackles, and I would say good left guard. So then, in my opinion, give me above average to very good at the center right guard position, and I think you're chilling. For example, I look at some of the guards out there, right? You can go crazy to me, it's like, all right, give me like just average. I don't need great. I don't need terrible, clearly. But give me like middle of the road, right? Give me just in the middle. Like Dylan Parham, for example, for the Raiders. 26 years old, young, up and coming. He was literally middle of the pack. 41st out of 81 guards in pass blocking, 41st out of 81 guards in run blocking. That contract's probably going to be like, I don't know, 9-10 million. I think that tracks. You got free agency also, which that could give you another elite guard if you want to go that route in for whatever, 22. You're probably not going to get an elite center in the draft right now, I don't think. Maybe. But do you need an elite center, right? Do you pay $23 million a year for Tyler Linderbaum? Or do you pay $2 million per year for a center in round 2? That's good to very good. It's risk, right? There's risk reward on all sides. But in context, like that's the part that matters. You got the edges you got to re-sign, hopefully. You've got a quarterback who's going to be making upwards of $50, $60, $70 million these next few years. Your quarterback, like in my opinion, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, Jake. Like, I don't necessarily think that you need both of these sides, right? I think if you have a great offensive line, like not good, not average, but great, I think that can help put Band-Aids over maybe some holes you have at the skill position, right? It can mask your running game. If your running backs aren't great, but you have massive holes. It can mask your quarterback play if he has 10 seconds to throw versus getting blown up after 2 seconds. It can mask the receivers and right? It can make that look a little bit better. And then vice versa. You can have amazing skill positions that can mask your offensive line deficiencies as long as it's not horrendous, which it was for the Chargers. I don't think you have to have, I mean, sure, it'd be nice, but from a roster construction perspective, like I don't think you have to have elite offensive line and elite playmakers, especially when you're paying $75-80 million to your edge rushers.
Yeah.
So that's a long-winded answer, but for me, it's just, I think Chargers fans are so burnt on seeing Justin Herbert just get absolutely lit up for years to where like you don't want to skew that thing so far. The pendulum can't go so far from one end to the other to where you're doing things out of desperation and you are sacrificing your roster construction and money because you're just trying to fix this one thing. But fixing that one thing, all of a sudden you have glaring holes other places. So there's a way that I think they should address the offensive line from the interior 100%. Like It cannot be near as bad as it was last year. Give me like 5 more offensive linemen for the interior.
No, I don't disagree with that at all, Dan. And again, if we're looking at the other options outside of Tyler Linderbaum, we've talked about it. Connor McGovern is in there. Cade Mays from the Panthers is in there as well. Again, these are 2 younger prospects as far as the options that are out there that are not going to command nearly as much money. They're right about the same. I mean, Tyler Linderbaum's obviously the youngest of the 3, but in terms of commanding that type of money for what the market is potentially going to set, and especially with the bidding war that's going to be out there for Tyler Linderbaum, it makes sense from the Joe Ortiz playbook of things. And again, we talked about this when we had Chris Rim on the show. And again, we see it every single year, especially because we're all excited for free agency. That's what free agency frenzy is all about. Right when that time window hits for when the tampering window is open and you can start signing and making these deals, and the first day comes and goes, and Joe Ortiz has not made one single move, and the entire fan base just goes berserk saying, sign anybody. It's not the MO of Joe Ortiz. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think that you're going to see anything different come day one this year either. I would love
So you're okay with doing Linderbaum, but you don't think it's going to happen. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not going to say necessarily it's going to happen because, again, because of what you witnessed last season And again, let's remember this. This was Joe Ortiz that backed to run it back with everybody. And the only unfortunate part was your offensive line, which did pretty decent 2 years ago. That was when you had a Rashawn Slater and a healthy Joe Alt. Then you lost the two best parts of your offensive line. And your interior just absolutely destroyed itself. Your free agency moves that you did in that respect did not end up panning out essentially from week 1 till the end of the season. And your center and your guard play at the other spots just were subpar at best, if not terrible.
Yep.
So, again, we asked Chris Remness, is this going to be a situation where Joe Ortiz may make a course correction in that circumstance? Again, if it's me, I'm with you. And I'm with a lot of people with what are talking about in the chat as far as not necessarily resetting the market. You don't need to do that. Do I think that you're going to go heavy in revamping this offensive line? No doubt about it. Whether it's free agency or the draft, you're going to see multiple offensive linemen that are brought in on this team. Let's not forget, outside of Mekhi Becton signing last year, the Chargers drafted one offensive lineman. And that wasn't until day 3. That didn't end up playing at all. Not good moves as it relates to the offensive line. And you actually have a number of free agents on this offensive line, a couple of which would be considered as far as depth purposes to bring back. Others, thank you for your time, but the time is over. So it's going to be a complete overhaul of this offensive line, especially with the Mike McDaniel and Butch Berry scheme that you're now going to implement here. But I think that they're going to do it smartly.
Yep. Comment here from Sergio. I think our offensive line has already been upgraded by the coaching changes alone. Question: is it more important to re-sign Mack and Owe, go all in on the offensive line, or split it down the middle?
Split it down the middle. Split it down the middle. If this question was posed to me, I'd say as of right now, Owe is priority number 1 to bring him back.
Yep.
Because again, if you're bringing back Khalil Mack, you know that that's at least going to be just for 1 more year, and it's essentially going to be kind of a Band-Aid option because the following year, short-term option. Tuli's going to be up for contract. Technically, he could be up for a contract extension right now, but I think with what you have at the edge position, you're not going to spend so much money to allocate it in that position. So I think you're going to wait to extend him. You're going to try to get Owe done before the season starts, or before free agency starts would be ideal. But Chris O'Leary knows this. He learned from the Jesse Minter coaching tree. In order to be successful in his system, you need 3 good edge rushers. So Owe to me is priority 1. And then spend the rest of your priority in terms of not necessarily paying top dollar to the offensive line, but filling it out enough to where you could say, okay, this is improved enough now to where we can reinforce it with what we're going to do in the draft.
Beef Talaboy. They have $100 million in cap space. They won't bring back bad players. Relax, Nancy. I'm assuming he's referring to us being negative Nancy's. I don't know. And the $100 million in cap space, I think he's alluding to if you got rid of Mekhi Becton, if you get rid of potentially Will Dissly. I'm not saying Will Dissly's bad, but how they used him last year, I don't know why they'd keep him with that cap hit. Bud Dupree could be a possible player you see let go. I think right there, you're over $100 million in cap space available. Now, again, like I see Joe Ortiz as like a poker player, right? Like I don't see him bluffing very often. Like I see him as like if he's got King Queen, like he'll bet, right? If he's got pocket aces, like he'll probably go all in, sure. But if he's got like 10-6 offsuit, like do you see him pushing all his chips in for that? I just don't. I don't. And so I can see Joe Ortiz being aggressive on players that are as close to surefire as you can get. Now, is Tyler Linderbaum an upgrade over what they currently have? Of course. But are you willing to spend that much money to do it? I'm not sure. Remember, like for context too, right? Like I think sometimes you're a little, not you, but people can be a little
Thank you.
extreme.
Not you.
Yeah, not
Trust me, I can be extreme sometimes if I want to be.
No.
No, that's the old Jake Hefner. That's the pre-Jim Harbaugh, Joe Ortiz era Jake Hefner.
That's the Jake in text messages live during NFL football games.
Yes. That's
Alex
the Jake Hefner during the Brandon Staley era.
Yes, but you can't rely on coaching to turn chicken shit into chicken salad.
Okay.
Somewhat.
Which I get. But at the same time, I think that they have proven more times than not in the last 2 years that their coaching has made a big difference.
On one side.
Yeah. I mean, just look at defensively what you did.
Yes.
In year one with Joe Ortiz, when you signed a number of just those 1 year contracts. Tyler Tard was a 1 year contract. Elijah Molden was a trade that ended up taking place just a few weeks before the season started.
Poona Ford. Yep, as much.
I understand the mentality, and maybe it's a little bit of PTSD because we, as followers of this franchise, are not used to coaching being an X factor that makes a difference because we've been deprived of it for so many years since the Marty Schottenheimer days. So this was where you could say in a lot of ways, I think Tom Telesco failed because he relied more on making a talented roster rather than one that was depth heavy and having the right coaches in place in order to develop it. Now you have the right people in place in the front office and the coaching staff in order to do that.
Okay, so let's just set the table here for, I think, the extreme Chargers fan who wants to see this Chargers offensive line improve hell or high water. Which, again, if that's the bar, do I want to see this Chargers line improve? Yes. Okay, let's just look at this honestly. To improve from last year is not hard to do. I said it a few times last year, that was historically horrendous. Historically. Now, you get to sub out Austin Deculus and Bobby Hart or whoever you want at the left tackle position, or Trey Pipkins, whoever, for 2 all-pros. I'm calling them all-pros. They're both all-pros. The variance between what you had last year and what you'll have this year, presumably, with Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, will be miles improved. In theory, you're probably going to improve 4 out of 5 positions on your offensive line, literally just by rolling anybody in. But you bring in Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, again, presumably Rashawn Slater. Now, you look at the center market, right? We talked about Linderbaum, probably going to be upwards of 20 plus, right? He's been out there a lot. But there are other centers out there too. There's the Browns guy, Ethan Pochich, who's, again, average. I'm not saying great. 22nd out of 40 in run blocking. 25th out of 40 in pass blocking. I'm good with that. Connor McGovern, 20th out of 40 in run blocking. 6th best pass blocking. These are all according to PFF. Give me some guard options, right? Wyatt Teller, 36th out of 61 or 81, run blocking. Not terrible. Dylan Parham, I said, average, right in the middle. Dalton Risner, big dude, 23rd and 17th, respectively, in run blocking, pass blocking. Those are the contracts that I can see Joe Ortiz go after. Right? What can we bring in that can give us upside, that we can get value out of? There are positions, there are players that I can see him bringing the back of the Brinks truck up for. He's doing it with current players on his roster right now. Look at Derwin. Look at Justin. Maybe he'll be Owe, right? To me, it's a lot of risk, man. And I get why people want to fix the offensive line again, but you remember, quote unquote, fix the offensive line or improve the offensive line. That bar is so damn low right now. And with the horrendous offensive line they had last year, without Rashawn Slater, without Joe Alt, with Bradley Bozeman, with Mekhi Becton, with Declan, with all of that, they somehow still won 11 games, Pop. So, like, imagine what that would have looked like with just average. I mean,
Justin Herbert would have liked average.
give me just good enough to pair with, let's just say, Daiyan, Rashawn, and Joe Alt. Like, that's a damn good offensive line. And you look at the weapons the Chargers has on the offense already. Maybe they need, a speedy receiver. Maybe they need a running back. Maybe another type. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, they're cooking with Mike McDaniel. Like, that's cooking. So you bring in Mike McDaniel. You got Butch. In theory, you're not going to have the right guard or center. To me, I think they're in a good place. And I don't know, man. I know a lot of people talked about like the Linderbaum stats that came out on Twitter recently about like how bad he was. People were like, whoa, no, and all of a sudden now I don't want him. Like, okay, check yourself.
Dan, I think I want to just add this as the flip coin before we like really kind of dive into the guards, because I know that this will be like another add in with Zion, and as it relates to just how much turnover are you actually going to have on that offensive line this year. But the center class for this NFL draft is sneaky good. Good.
But define that. Like, is that round one, tier one, sneaky good, or like there's good value where you can get day 2, day 3, and they can be starters?
The latter.
Okay.
And honestly, you could make an argument that all those factors are true, but I would probably lean most towards the latter. And the reason I say that is because, once again, much like you saw last year when you go through a lot of these draft prospects, there's so many, because of measurables, there are so many players that are now being looked at to play on the interior that have played tackle their entire college careers.
Sure.
And especially just when you look at some of the names that are out there as it relates to this upcoming draft, which again, I would expect the Chargers' first 2 picks, and whether that's by trade down, whatever it ends up taking place, is going to be an offensive lineman. No question about it. You have to put a premium on it. Whether that's first round or second round, they're drafting an offensive lineman. I don't care what it is. I don't care what position it is, but it's on the interior. But when you're looking at the center class, obviously Sam Hecht has done a great job as far as elevating himself to possibly be the top center taken in this class. I have been a huge supporter of the Jake Slaughter fan club. And I know I'm kind of in the minority on that, but I think he's been one of the more consistent centers over the last couple of years in college. I know a lot of people are high on Logan Jones. Jaeger Burden is another one that has come out. And again, once we get through Combine Week, which we all should be excited for when you see some of this testing, a lot of these rankings and, draft stock, they're going to elevate for some of these guys. And again, the same goes for the names that I didn't list there. You have a lot of guys that have played tackle just because of their measurables in general that they're going to kick into the inside. So now you've put more people into the interior pool. So it's a great problem for the Chargers to have when you're looking at, okay, to Dan's original point, allocating the money properly and rebuilding the offensive line, not just from a standpoint of depth reinforcements, but also for a youth movement as well. Let's get that injected into there.
Okay, I have a bone to pick with some Chargers fans, and I'm going to put you on blast here, 2Papa7230. You're saying no teller with all caps. Bro, any one of these guys, any one of the guys that we've talked about today are worlds better than what they had last year. Anyone. You're telling me no to Wyatt Teller, okay? Wyatt Teller was 40th in guard play out of 81, 36th in run blocking, 65th in pass blocking out of 81. The sad part, all of those numbers are light years better than what the Chargers had last year. I'm not saying he's great, but all of these guys improve the Chargers' offensive line. All of them. So if Wyatt Teller is the best offensive line they bring in the offseason, like, are you a little worried? Sure. If he's the worst, are you worried? No. Not at all. So, let's keep it real for a second. The Chargers' offensive line was horrendous. And you can't, right on time. Dom Wave, I believe. We can't pay for all the elite options. So, if you're going to pay for elite positions, where are you doing it? You already got the quarterback. You're almost certainly going to have an edge. You already got the tackle. Might have to pay 2 edge. You got the safety. All those guys are making premium bucks. You tell me. Now, the one good thing the Chargers have for them, but again, every NFL team has it, is cap space and went up this year. So they got money, and they should spend it, but just spend it wisely. And you don't want to be too reactionary to this stuff, in my opinion. We talked about the center a bunch, right? We talked about overall guys that they might get rid of to kind of help improve the number that they have for cap space. We talked a little bit about the guards. Are there any other guards that you would be interested in, like free agency wise, other than all of them?
Yeah, let's make the note on this again in case you missed our internal free agent discussion. I do think that when it comes down to it, because if anybody had been following along the Daniel Popper piece that he put out, great breakdown, easy to follow as far as the 100 plus free agents that are out there. And as it relates to the contract that he had projected for Zion Johnson, he was projecting it was 4 years, $68 million for Zion Johnson. Now, however you want to slice that, I think that you're not going to have a turnover of 3 offensive linemen in the middle, left guard, center, right guard. I don't think you're going to have that much to replace. I honestly think, in talking about Mike McDaniel and Butch Berry's system, that Zion Johnson is actually better fit because he's one of the most athletic offensive linemen that you have. I think it's a much better fit for him as far as the scheme going into that. Now, I continuously said throughout the year that I wasn't that impressed with Zion Johnson's play last year. He was basically the best of the worst, however you want to stack rank that. Better in pass protection, not so much in run blocking. Definitely needed some huge improvements as it relates to that. But I do think that signing Zion Johnson is going to be a priority for Joe Ortiz.
I agree. I think he's a top 3 re-sign priority list now. Yeah, I agree.
So that's gonna limit one more thing that you have to do to rebuild this offensive line. And I personally think that last guard spot, if that ends up coming to fruition with Zion,
that's a draft.
That's your draft pick.
Yeah,
that is your draft pick, 100%.
Alex asked, "What do you think about signing a tackle and moving Slater to guard?" I think it was way too early to talk about that. And no. Why? The only reason you would do that is if he's not the same player, which we don't know that yet. If he is the same player, you're paying a premium position to play, or a premium player to play a premium position. And he's great at it. No, absolutely not. Let's see. Comey says, even the mid-grade free agents will be overpriced. We saw that happen last year. Yes, some of them. And that's why you saw some of the Chargers guys that they were interested in were like, no. Bozeman's come up a lot. I'm pretty confident you're not going to see Bozeman next year. Like, there's just no way. He doesn't. 1, he wasn't good. 2, I don't think he fits what McDaniel does, period. So I'm not really worried about that. Jim Harbaugh, burn. Linderbaum, McGovern, I'll be pissed. I get it. Because of what you saw last year, I get it. To me, it's like, bring back Bozeman, I'm pissed. Anybody else, like, I'm good. As sad as that is. But like, I'm not being literal, but I don't know. Let's see. Let's get into some of the free agents, just generally speaking, that could be some juicy options for this Chargers team. Are there any guys out there, any position, that could be sneaky ads. I mean, we could talk about the Tyreek Hill stuff. Like, that's easy, low-hanging fruit.
We don't need to talk about that.
Like, Hendrickson.
We don't need to talk about that.
So, like, of the guys that are out there, who are some names that you can see? Doesn't necessarily have to be tier 1, but just generally. What's the chat? You tell us your thoughts, too.
I was going to say, don't ask me. I've got everything structured as of what position we're going to. I wasn't prepared for the overall free agency move. I'm ready to talk about the defensive side of the ball. Okay, but people in the chat, fire them off. If you've got favorites of yours that you would like to potentially see as signings, Dan and I will chime in on it.
Okay, defense, Jake. Let's start there.
Let's go to the edge position, Dan. It's Oweh, obviously. That is priority 1. But he's also gonna be someone that's in high demand. It helped the Chargers for the position for how he played in the playoff game against the New England Patriots. It wasn't bad that it was bad though, because everybody saw that. Just earned himself a bag in a contract year after a trade that the Chargers did to acquire him. And my God, did that end up paying off? Because up until the time that Odafe Oweh had arrived with the Chargers, getting to the quarterback was an issue between Tuli, and especially when Khalil Mack went down for those 4 games that you missed him on. It was tough sledding there because Tuli was doing everything that he can, and he was living up to his end of the bargain, but you were not getting pass rush help from anywhere else until Odafe Oweh arrived. So I don't think there's any question that the next priority for Joe Ortiz, and that's even before anybody else as it relates to internal free agents goes, that Odafe Oweh has to be the next priority sign for them. No question about it.
And if that's it, so that's one, there goes 20 million. Poof.
Yes. But
that might not be 20 million cap hit, but that's 20 million you're spending.
Yes. Let's just say you miss out on him. I think that then the focus would shift to the possibility of bringing Khalil Mack back, whatever contract that may look like, who knows. But if we're talking about external options for edge,
Joey Bosa.
I was gonna say Jalen Phillips, who may even get a bigger bag as it relates to the Odafe Oweh situation. But again, if we're talking about what is one of the biggest things that you need for this defense to produce, it's getting after the quarterback. It's having 3 productive edge rushers. Chris O'Leary knows this from learning under Jesse Minter. He knows the priority that it takes as it relates to getting after the quarterback and needing those type of pieces in place to win defensively. So if you don't get Odafe Oweh, if you're not able to re-sign him, and again, we always like to talk about familiarity. Well, Mike McDaniel knows a thing or two about Jalen Phillips in terms of his time with him. If you're telling me, Dan, as far as where you would probably put a priority, big time, try to be home run scenario, that would probably be the next one that I would go to. Looking at the rest of the free agents that you have, I know people have talked about Trey Hendrickson a lot, and maybe the reason that I'm a little bit sketchy as far as that, because it's been a tough situation for him in Cincinnati over the last couple of years. And again, he's 31 years old, still not losing production. I get it, but what type of contract are you expecting to bring to him? And he's still considered the top edge option that's out there going into this free agent market. Boya Mafe is another one from the Seattle Seahawks, because again, they know how to rush the passer. They know the priorities that it takes as far as edge rushers. We saw that in the Super Bowl.
I like Damon Jones too. Former Tennessee, goes to the Ravens. I think
again, as we're going to be adding into this, because you have to, as far as what's going to ultimately be the priorities between free agency, the draft, anything of that nature, there's some good edge rushers in this class too. There's some good edge rushers that can get after the quarterback in this class. So is this one of the positions, Dan, because you say it as far as resetting the market for center, not something that you would do if and only if you lost out on Odafe Oweh? Would this be the position that you would do that?
To reset the market?
Not necessarily to reset the market, but to target one of the the bigger name free agents.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, like I'm not saying they necessarily have to get Trey Hendrickson. Like I honestly would rather them not get Trey Hendrickson because I think they would want to go younger. But if you bring in a Jalen Phillips, you bring in a Draymond Jones, you bring in most of them I would take, honestly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, edge is important, right? So you're going to spend a premium position on it in the draft, or you're going to spend premium money on it if you want to be good, period. So, like, if they miss out on Khalil Mack, and could they bring in like a Hassan Reddick type? Maybe. Could they? To me, I could see like the Draymond Jones. I could see the Jalen Phillips, the Joseph Osai type of look. All those guys I could see. If they don't get Odafe Owe and Khalil Mack, like I'd be pretty hellbent confident that they would bring in not a premier, but like a darn good edge player. Something that we haven't talked about much is the linebacker position. There's a lot of question marks and unknowns there, even including what you saw from Daiyan Henley. And I really like Daiyan Henley. He had a crazy ass year for him personally. And what he went through off the field, like that's tough. And these guys are humans, right? Like we all saw what happened to Rondale Moore. Like it's so sad. And thoughts and prayers to everyone, his family, like that. Football is a tough sport, even if you are healthy. But unhealthy, it's even tougher. To me, this linebacker position is kind of a sneaky hole right now. There's a lot of unknowns. You got Daiyan Henley, who just statistically had a down year. Denzel Perryman, free agent. Still got Junior Colson, who had back-to-back injury issues that basically derailed the entire thing. Troy Dye. Got Delshon Phillips on the come-up.
Marlowe Wax up on the come-up.
But if you were to just be honest, is that good enough? Are you confident in that? That's probably a better question. Are you confident in that?
Here's what I'll say. I don't think that it's as big of a priority for free agency at this position. I understand why, because you obviously have Denzel Perryman that's up for contract, but I don't think it's as big of a position that you're going to target for free agency as you will for the draft.
Yes, agreed.
Because the draft is so deep at linebacker. It's one of the best things about this upcoming draft is that for the positions that are really big needs for the Chargers, it's a deep class for each one of those respective positions, and linebacker especially. And I think that if you don't end up bringing Denzel Perryman back, that you just really need a thumper in the middle as it relates to the run game to pair, because we know what Daiyan Henley can do in coverage, and it's pretty good. I don't think you necessarily need two Daiyan Henleys that are out there.
Would you spend for like a Devin Lloyd?
I mean, that'd be formidable for sure.
Fun.
It wouldn't be one of my top priorities, but I mean, I'm not going to say no to that. That'd be a hell of a pairing with Daiyan Henley. But again, when I look at what this linebacker class has to offer in the NFL draft, that's what makes me think spend your money elsewhere. Bring back some more internal free agents for some of that money that you could get.
Nakobe Dean would be an interesting one.
Nakobe Dean would be an interesting one for sure. But again, that's basically at the top of the market as far as that priority goes.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think he'd be much lower than a Devin Lloyd. But who knows? Kenneth Murray, anyone? Kenneth Murray? Let's see. So linebacker, corner, wide receiver. I haven't talked about wide receiver much. By the way, Jake, speaking of wide receiver, real quick. People are talking like Mike Evans is washed. Like, dude. He was riddled with injuries last year.
One of the most consistent wide receivers of all time.
Like, it is sick watching what his stats look like from a year-to-year basis. That's what you pay your big money for. I'm not saying they should pay for it now, but he was like, what, 12 straight 1,000-yard seasons or something crazy? I don't know.
I mean, me personally, do I see the Chargers bringing in Mike Evans? I don't, and not as it relates to, money or anything or age or anything of that nature. I just think that what they're looking to build, especially in Mike McDaniel's offense, is different. And the crazy part about all of this is that when you say wide receiver in general, Chargers have done such a good job from a draft perspective to build that out to where it's actually a strength for them. It's crazy to say. This is 2 years removed after they were considered the worst wide receiver core in the NFL, and that was after drafting Ladd McConkey. Insane. But when you think about how Trey Harris elevated himself in a rookie year, I think personally that the offensive coaching scheme for this team is going to fit perfectly for what KLS needs to do, what you want from him. As a downfield speed option, I think Mike McDaniel is going to fall in love with him for that. I think it's also going to benefit Quentin Johnston in a lot of ways. I think Sanjay Lal has done such a good job with developing this wide receiver core in general that you can now look at the wide receivers. Not to say that you can't obviously add to it. I'm not saying that it's set and it's great and that you can win with it and that, put everything else to rest. But you've done such a good job with drafting, developing, and the coaching aspect of things just over the last 2 years that you look at it and to say, no, there's like 4 or 5 other positions that I would say are a much higher priority. Now, where do the Chargers need some help? Yeah, I think Mike McDaniel is going to want to get some more speed in there, even though he himself said speed is not the end-all, be-all. But what you could really use is a speed factor, maybe someone who's got a little bit more juice in the return game. So that kind of shortens the list a little bit as far as the right type of free agent that you're looking to fit, if that's where you're looking to target. If it's not that, it's a deep wide receiver class as well. And I think that you could find a variance of wide receivers in the draft that could fit that type of mold for you.
Would you spend on the interior defensive line? Excuse me.
Yeah, I know you signed Tyler Tart back, which was obviously huge, but Deshaun Hand is going to be a free agent. You don't know what's. I think Tito's also a free agency as well, so you're gonna have to reinforce that in some form or fashion. So Jonathan Franklin Myers that Dan has up on the board right now, I think would be a great option. He's the top interior defensive lineman. This is another one along with edge that I would consider to say, okay, if you're not spending top money on the offensive line, this is where I'd be spending it. The premium for the Chargers in this offseason has got to be put in the trenches. And whether we're talking about contract money for free agents or if we're talking about the NFL draft in which rounds that you're going to be selecting them, you have to put a premium on the trenches this year. It's getting back to the old school priority tip of the spear formula that Jim Harbaugh talked about during his first press conference. But now you actually need to walk the walk about it. You need to get back to that. That's my thought about it. So interior defensive lineman, yeah. But I'm also going to tell you, Dan, interior offensive lineman, interior defensive lineman could end up being, depending on how the board falls, could end up being the Chargers' first-round selection at 22. And it's deep in this class. It's sneaky deep. And if we're watching the way that the Chargers rotate a lot of their defensive linemen, it's not necessarily to say, oh, well, you need to have, X player at this round or this guy at free agency. No, but spend a premium on it, in my opinion. It's another one along with offensive linemen to say, okay, in the first 2 picks, this is where the Chargers should be targeting. Not necessarily the player, but the position. That's my feeling about it. So absolutely. I know people have asked me this question a lot of times, especially as it relates to the draft. If Big Vega at Penn State is not there at 22, do you shift your focus to the interior defensive line? 100%. Absolutely. And it should be no different for free agency. If you're not spending top money for offensive linemen, then you should be spending it on the other side for the trenches.
Let's see. Question. Who is a solid center that won't cost too much? It doesn't seem like there's many options. It doesn't, honestly. There aren't that many. There's probably 4 free agents, maybe, for center. You got Linderbaum, you got McGovern, Cade Mays. You got the guy from Cincy, or from Cleveland, excuse me. Ethan, I think is it Pocic? Pokic? I don't know. Pokic? I don't remember. That's kind of it, honestly. A lot of people talk about Isaiah Likely to the Chargers.
Continuing the Baltimore to Los Angeles pipeline.
They just signed Mark Andrews, so that was, that was pretty. I didn't think they were going to be signing Mark Andrews to that, so maybe.
Yeah, I'm seeing some of the comments in here. It's just talking about Grayson Halton, who I just got a chance to watch 2 nights ago. I sent you over my tweet on him. It's just the motor, the first step that Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma has is just ridiculous. And I think that when you watch him perform at the combine this week, if people don't know about Grayson Halton, you're going to know about Grayson Halton for sure. And his stock is going to start soaring after next week. It is just ridiculous speed that even a guy who's undersized for an interior defensive lineman at 6'2", 292, I believe. I don't know exactly what the final measurements are going to be, but holy shit, man. Even guys at that size are not supposed to move that fast. It is ridiculous. And there's plenty of other interior defensive linemen, especially if we're talking about the upper echelon of the draft goes, that you should be prioritizing 100%.
Yeah. Other tight ends out there. You got Kyle Pitts, potentially. You got Njoku, likely. You got Tyler Conklin. Darren Waller.
Speaking of tight ends, what did you think about Daniel Jeremiah's mock 2.0?
I like it. Not the player. I like the player.
Like the player. But I didn't realize this until someone, I can't remember who it was that said it online, as far as notating that I think the last 2 or 3 mock drafts that DJ has done, it was the mock 2.0 that ended up being what the Chargers ended up drafting. In this particular case, that's a hard sell for me to believe that even if you were to say that your top guard options are gone, your top defensive linemen, even though I don't believe that that's how the board's going to fall, are going to be gone, that you're going to go tight end in that scenario. If that was me, I'd probably trade back. Honestly. And it's no knock on Sadiq. But that would be me.
Man, I don't know. I'm looking at the wide receiver free agents that are out there. Like, on Pickens. I'm probably not doing Jennings. Alec Pierce. I love Alec Pierce, but I'm not spending $20 million plus. Rashid Shaheed fits perfectly. And that's like in that value center area around, like, I don't know, 15 million-ish. Give me Calvin Austin all day. There's a few. But
do you think, and again, we start talking about like familiarity here. It was easy to pinpoint that, whether it was between the Titans or the Ravens. And again, you look at who you now have at offensive coordinator. Is Darren Waller worth like a low level flair to say like, okay, he's not going to come in to be your tight end 1?
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, and I kind of agree with the sentiment from folks in the chat that are talking about, like, that's a lot of money to spend on a receiver, like for Shaheed. And it kind of seems like
that'd be fun though. That'd be damn fun.
It would be fun, but it seems like a luxury pick, they say.
Definitely.
And it definitely is. But I think that while that might be true, like that archetype, I think will be brought in. That archetype of speed, explosive, return / offensive weapon. It's going to happen. Just wait for it. So, yeah, I could see Darren Waller for sure. He had high praise from Mike McDaniel. And he played pretty damn good, all things considered, last year. So, I can see it. Running back. I mean, you got your running back 1, so I think you would probably go for like a tier 2, 3 free agent, maybe in the draft, but that'd probably be post NFL draft.
Yeah, I think you've got your RB1, your RB2, and you bring someone in that's going to compete for that RB2 spot. I don't believe personally that Najee Harris is coming back. I know it was a devastating injury. I know it fit well for what you were going to have, what your plan was between Omari and Hampton and Najee Harris last year. That fit well in the Greg Roman scheme of things.
There's a bunch of running backs out there right now.
But I don't think that it fits the best as it relates to the fit for Mike McDaniel's scheme. I think this is a great opportunity for the running backs that you currently have on the roster. But you can inflex that, especially as it relates to what Dan was just saying with the draft, to find someone to round out that stable.
Yeah, I mean, look at these. There's Kenneth Gainwell out there. There's Michael Carter that's out there. We talked about Najee Harris already. Amir Abdullah is out there. He's a little older now, but I mean, there's a lot of names here that still have a lot of tread on the tires that you don't have to spend a ton of money for.
Secretly, Kamani Vidal was sitting at home, and when he got the news that Mike McDaniel was the new offensive coordinator, I guarantee you he was so happy, because I personally think that his style is perfect for this system.
Yeah.
And trust me, he earned a hell of a lot more playing time for the flag that he had to pick up and carry during the times that Omari and Hampton was out. So he's deserving more carries. But I do think that you're going to bring someone in on, let's say, day 3 of the draft to compete for that 2 or 3 spot for sure.
Yeah. I like the likely projections, though. Like that, I can totally see that. But we said at the top, that's why it's so important. Like, if they don't fix the offensive line, none of this shit matters.
No.
But you don't have to fix it by swinging too far, right? Like, you don't have to go too crazy. Now, are you ever going to be upset by having too good of an offensive line? Like, I'll grant you that. That's never a problem. But there is risk when you put a lot of resources towards one position group. You saw it last year with the tackle position. Looks great on paper, but if heaven forbid something happens, I don't know. I just don't see it. Okay, so I got an argument here. Ivan Flores. Your argument can be made for any position group. Obviously, you want to draft every position and not overpay anyone, but that's not how it works, and we have the money. Okay, again, you're overpaying. You are paying top dollar for quarterback, paying top dollar for safety, you're paying top dollar for left tackle. Most likely, I would think you're going to pay top dollar for edge, either this year or next, for 1 or 2 of Tuli and OA. You're already paying top dollar for a lot of those guys. So, yes, you have the money, but what are you going to spend it on? Should they overpay is really the question. Because right now, if they wanted to get Linderbaum, they will have to overpay. Is he the guy to overpay for? That's the question.
Let's not forget the last time that the Chargers had this much cap space. What happened when you actually took a spending mentality as far as free agency goes? And this is where I go back to the whole coaching makes a difference. The J.C. Jackson signing, the Sebastian Joseph Day signing, all the big-time free agents that the Chargers had when Tom Telesco had all that cap space, and virtually none of them ended up bringing an ROI to your team. So it's not an exact formula. I get what you're saying as far as certain positions, premium, when you have the money to spend, and especially when it comes to the standpoint of protecting your quarterback, what to do. But it's not an exact science.
No. With little picks, you got to spend on something, though. Yes, you do. You got 6 picks this year. As of right now. You have 6 picks. You got a boatload of money. You don't have to spend all of the money. Just like with last year. The Chargers didn't spend all of it, but it also helped them bring in Odafe Owe because they had money to spend. Yes, they could trade back.
Yes. Yes. Still is eluding me after 10 years.
So they should spend money. I'm not saying they should not spend money, but they should spend it wisely. Oh, no, we have 5 picks.
Remember, it's 6 picks now, and this was again recent news from Daniel Popper as he put out is that we don't know exactly what the pick is, but the Chargers are expected to get. You know how Joe Ortiz loves his comp picks. The Chargers are expected to get a 6th-round comp pick from the sneaky little J.K. Dobbins deal that they did way back at the beginning of free agency before he ended up signing with the Broncos. So that's what would bring you to 6 picks here. But again, I am not against trading down. Not against trading back at all. If it's for 22 and the board is not there, trade back towards the end of the 1st round. You could still find some great players there. If it doesn't happen there, consider it at 55 when you're on the clock again.
We went through a lot here. We're at an hour and 10. Anything we missed?
I don't think there's anything that we missed. Again, if anybody wants to spend 5 or so minutes with any free agents that you guys want to rattle off while you guys are doing that, want to make sure that we officially announce coming up, because we have talked about this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and Dan and I are officially going to do this, especially with Combine Week kicking off. And I assure you that over the next, as it relates to coverage on that, coverage after that, we're going to have a lot of fun things going on. But we are officially going to be doing a jersey of choice giveaway for Combine Week. So starting today, you'll see the post up later on our Twitter handle, and we will run it for the duration of the week until the Combine is over. And that is when we will announce the winner. But we will put up all of the giveaway rules for you guys to follow. So for your chance to enter to win a jersey of your choice. Dan and I have not done a giveaway in a long time, and that's our fault. So we're happy to get, we are happy to get to that again. So just be on the lookout for that. We'll be dropping that on the Twitter handle later today. Outside of that, Dan, are you excited for Combine Week? You should be. I know they call it the Underwear Olympics, and a lot of people don't give a shit about it, but you know something? It's fun. It's fun to watch 310-pound dudes moving at that type of pace.
Yeah, this is when it starts to get real for NFL draft stuff for a lot of people. I'll be honest. Adding the second kid, it's been a little tough finding time to do this stuff.
You've been running your own personal combine.
Yes. My 40 time is not what it used to be. But 100%. And that's usually when I start to get excited more, is when you start seeing those. So what will most likely happen, I'm knowing myself. I'm going to give myself probably 3 days prior to the Combine starting.
So basically starting tomorrow.
Probably.
Combine starts Thursday.
Do the events start Thursday?
Events start Thursday, dude. Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
right,
Sunday.
So
Technically, the Combine kicks off tomorrow, but that's the arrivals. That's everybody going through, just the initial.
All right, so that means I got 2 more days of no sleep, and then I'll have 3 days after that of less than no sleep. But I'm going to probably.
I get it. You're just cramming the night before a college final. I get it.
Yeah, that's how I roll. That's usually how I roll. It's not efficient. It's not smart, but it's how it works for me. Yes.
The only thing that I have actually seen from you, and this has been in a text message thread that has been any relation to any draft prospect whatsoever.
I'm waiting long.
Was Keldrick Falk? Wow.
Yep.
And that was the text message. That's the only thing that I have heard from you so far in draft season. So if we're talking about cramming,
it's coming.
You need to get to work, sir.
I know. Yes, we will do the giveaway. We'll make this one easy. There's not going to be that many rules in this one. Just be a human, be kind, and press follow. I don't know. Do you have whatever? Jake, we're back. I promise, Chargers fans, we will be back with more cadence. It has been a little bit of a journey these last few weeks for both of us, but we're here. We're here. It's all good. Folks in the chat, appreciate you. TD says you can sleep when you're dead. I hope so. Oh man, Jake, I
used to hear this quote even before I became a dad.
Mm-hmm.
That was back in 3-day benders in Vegas. I used to hear that quote. You can sleep when you're dead. Look at where we're at.
Oh, let's get out of here. For Jake, I'm Dan. It's Chargers Unleashed. Get your coffee. Enjoy this next few days before the combine starts because it's about to get crazy. And we're going to juice up for it. We're excited. But until then, we'll talk to you next time on the next Chargers Unleashed.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.